when I was talking to Hugh, I mean, like, here's a man that's worked so hard to have this body for this character. Now, and you knew that you were going to play the role of Sabretooth. What was the pressure that you put yourself on to kind of match his insane, we call it the Jackman now. I don't know
There's no way that I could out-Jack the Jackman. But I knew I had to get at least in the same world. Because we're playing brothers, and also because, initially at least in the story, Victor is the more dominant physically. And I think for most people, the idea that I could, you know, whoop Hugh Jackman is sort of ridiculous. But we worked on it, and we worked on it, and then we worked on it some more, and I'm glad we did.
Channeling your inner animal, like, was that kind of refreshing, or have you ever had an opportunity to kind of go the length like you did in this film?
I think I've spent most of my career channeling my inner animal, so it wasn't that unfamiliar to me. You know, everybody has said that you know, they're sort of surprised to see me in this movie and surprised to see me in this role, whereas it's funny because I feel like it's like a lot of things that I've done, particularly, you know, you know, doing the classical theater stuff in New York. It's of the same scope, you know. It's like Shakespeare.
I have to ask then, like, you know, you spend this time like in this mode. Is it easier, like, at home? You just having tea, you know, like, is it like a chilled out experience for you when you're back home, or does it kind of linger a little bit and there's remnants of Sabretooth, like when you're, you know, talking to your wife, or, you know?
Well, I think films like this, maybe for other people, they're not as emotionally all-consuming, I think, as maybe you assume they are. The thing about a film like this is it's really physical. It's rigorous. It's like physical work. But I'm not someone who ever takes characters home with me, you know what I mean? I have to take the facial hair home, unfortunately, but not the teeth or the claws.
How did that do at home? Was it popular, or did you know, was it kind of...
It was certainly unpopular with Naomi. I can't speak for my sons.
To shoot in Australia and you know, to have this really rigorous kind of experience, what was it like for you? And working with Hugh, who's also a producer on this film, to see him kind of take two hats, which you've also done, you know, in your work. So was it interesting to kind of...
It was.
And would you want to do something like this on this level for yourself? Would you kind of put yourself...
I don't think many people could handle it the way Hugh did. Hugh is remarkably suited to pressure and conflict. He's really, really good at resolving conflict and bringing people together, and generally increasing the peace. He's very good at that. He's a really inspirational person, I find, and that's what you need running something as big and as unruly as these kinds of movies can be. Shooting in Australia was a treat, because my first trip to Australia with Naomi, when we first got together, was brief and frustrating, and to have the time to develop a life there was really fantastic. Living by the beaches in Bondi and being able to go in the water every day with my son, and training with Hugh, and it was kind of an idyllic existence. I remember, as hard as I was working, it was one of the loveliest places in the world to be.
Is it hard to come back to a city like New York then afterwards? And
it was hard. It was you know, because I always swore I'd never leave New York, but Sydney is such a remarkable city, and Queenstown. It was two of the most beautiful locations I've ever worked on.
I have to ask, you know, here's a movie that everybody's worked so hard on, and then prior to it being released, you know, 2 months, a leak happens, and Gavin Hood calls this period like a wild, wild west. You know, things are happening, and, you know, even studios have no control. I mean, as an actor, to kind of see in this day and age these things happen, how do you feel? And I don't know, what can you do? I mean, is there...
You can't really do anything, I don't think, as an actor. I mean, sure, I was disappointed, you know, mostly more so for other people, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't invite my friends or my family to a dress rehearsal of a play, and that's kind of what it feels like. It's like, you know, people worked so hard on this movie, and that to not be able to have their work seen in the way that they intended doesn't seem fair. But it happens, you know, there's really not much you can do about it. I haven't seen the download, so I don't know. I guess it's cool to see the wires or something, but I don't. You know, having now seen it without the wires, I'm glad the wires are gone. But yeah, it's sad. I think for all of the artists, particularly the visual effects people who worked on the film, that their work is incomplete and that they are not able to show their abilities if people are taking that version as the film.
Last question then. I know that Sabretooth is a very popular character in the comic book world. Like when they cast you, did you go onto the boards and see what the fanboys were saying? Anything that surprised you or anything that kind
That's how
of...
stupid I am, by the way. That's how stupid I am. The first thing I did was go to the boards and say, geez, I wonder what the fanboys think of this. That was a mistake. But if you can handle that sort of thing, and I am thick-skinned, it is important to me, only because the reason these movies are so huge is because of the fans. That's why we're here. People love this character, people love this comic, people love this series. And so I was interested in trying to figure out what it was about him that they loved. I knew what I liked about him, but that was a whole different concept that was based on the script that I'd read, and you know, my initial love of Wolverine had more to do with Wolverine than it had to do with Sabretooth. Sabretooth never really caught my imagination as much as Wolverine did. But it was interesting what I found, and you know, over the course of the time that in between when we started working and when I first started reading those things, it became apparent to me that one of the things I needed to do for them was to get bigger. So I tried.
They'll enjoy it a lot. Thank you very much. Really
Thank
nice
you.
talking to you. Thanks again.